Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here, former federal prosecutor, former Army JAG. I'm trying to put together a series of YouTube videos to sort of take us all through the legal issues of the day. Previously, we had talked about the crime of involuntary manslaughter and whether how Donald Trump has been handling the coronavirus epidemic might qualify as involuntary manslaughter. We talked about how the elements of involuntary manslaughter involve gross negligence, that is, you act or fail to act in a grossly negligent way, an extremely reckless way, that your gross negligence has the potential to affect the lives of others, inflict serious bodily injury or death on others, and that you did in fact cause the death of others. I want to talk about element number one today. Gross negligence, extreme recklessness. I'm not going to be exactly precise. Those terms are interchangeable and they're used in different ways in different jurisdictions around the country. So what is it that Donald Trump told we the people about the coronavirus, and was the information he provided, the information that we had every right to rely on in making our health decisions, was it accurate? So one of the first things he told us about the coronavirus was, it's a hoax. And that was picked up and echoed by some of the media outlets that tend to support him and enable him and repeat uncritically everything he says without fact-checking him. So the President of the United States told us that the coronavirus was a hoax. What else did he tell us about it? He said that we only had 15 cases in the United States. It would soon be down to 5, and then 0. 15 cases would soon be 0. That was information that Donald Trump told us that we had every right to act on and rely on in making our public health decisions. He also told us that it was going to disappear like a miracle, right? It's going to disappear like a miracle. That's something the President of the United States told us. Let's just take one more. He said the warm weather is going to clear everything up. It's going to kill it, and it's going to take care of it. So, warm weather equals a cure. Going to take care of it. That's just some of the information that Donald Trump told us we can rely on, that the American people can believe and can act on in deciding how we should go about protecting ourselves. Was that information accurate? Was it truthful? Was it supported by data? Was it supported by public health professionals or medical staff? Or was it grossly negligent for him to say those things, which I think even to the uncritical eye were a whole bunch of hooey, to use a legal term? It was a lot of lies. It was a lot of nonsense. It was completely unsupported by science, by the public health professionals. It was grossly negligent. It was extremely reckless for him to say those things. Let me try to answer a few of the questions that you all have asked over the course of the last couple of days. And I'm going to try to, in the future, attribute your questions to you specifically and use your handles. I'm not there yet, but give me time and I'll get there. So some of you have asked, well, what about this sort of Washington State and Michigan lockout that we've heard about? We actually heard Donald Trump say, after putting Vice President Pence in charge of coordinating the national response to the coronavirus epidemic, we heard Donald Trump go on TV and say, if it were me, I wouldn't even return their calls. I told Governor Pence, don't return the calls from the governor of Washington State or the governor of Michigan, as he called her, that woman. Don't return their calls. You know, they're not nice to us. Why should we be nice to them? What impact does that have? What impact would that have in a criminal trial? Well, that shows motive, and it shows corrupt intent. It shows that what Donald Trump is really concerned about is not promoting a uniform response to the coronavirus epidemic. It's all about payback. You don't treat us nice, we're not going to treat you nice. Of course, not treating them nice translates to the people of Washington State and Michigan having to suffer, perhaps in a way the citizens of Florida don't have to suffer. And let me tell you, our friends down in Florida, I know y'all are suffering too, and hopefully the governor of Florida will sit up and take note and start doing what he needs to do to protect the people of Florida. But the Washington and Michigan shutout is powerful evidence of motive and of a corrupt intent by President Trump. This is all about his own political viability. It's not about really coordinating a thoughtful national effort, treating everybody fairly, supporting all of the states, red or blue. Another question that people have asked is, can you do something like this if there's no precedent? Can you actually charge a president once he leaves office for crimes he committed when he was in office? Because there's really no precedent for that. Here's what I say to that. In order to create precedent, you have to do something for the first time. You have to take a maiden voyage. If you never try to prosecute a novel crime one time, if you never try to bring a criminal charge based on a novel theory of prosecution, you're never going to have precedent to do it a second time. In order to set precedent, you have to do it a first time. If anything is worth doing a first time, it is this: holding President Trump and his enablers and his co-defendants and his co-conspirators, his aiders and abettors, his accessories, holding them all accountable for what they have done to this country that is criminal. And let me tell you, I've walked into court in my 30 years as a prosecutor and brought some novel theories of liability. And I promise you, if a judge decides that the theory of liability is not well-founded, is not supported, even by way of analogy, in the law, the judge is going to dismiss the case. If a jury is not persuaded that the evidence proves beyond a reasonable doubt the president is guilty of the crimes with which he is charged, a jury will acquit him, will find him not guilty. So just because charges are brought doesn't mean there are no checks and balances in the system. There are. Judges service checks and balances. Juries service checks and balances. And here's the thing. In a trial for involuntary manslaughter involving Donald Trump's mishandling of the coronavirus epidemic, there will be expert witnesses. So I, as the prosecutor, would welcome the opportunity to cross-examine the expert witnesses Donald Trump put on the stand to say, in their expert medical opinion, in their expert public health opinion, it was nothing but a hoax. There were only 15 cases and it went down to 0, just like Trump told us, just like we had every right to rely on, coming from the mouth of our president. That the warm weather made it disappear, and it disappeared like a miracle. I welcome a defense from expert witnesses making those points, trying to convince a jury that Trump was right and accurate and data-driven, and that the American people therefore had every right to make their public health decisions based on what Donald Trump told us. Okay, you've probably heard enough for today. So please keep sending your questions. I'm going to try to attribute them more specifically to you, especially if I can get somebody to help me with some fancy editing. Maybe I can superimpose a tweet. All right, that's really ambitious for somebody who is as e-challenged as I am, but bear with us. And most importantly, folks, stay safe, follow the CDC guidelines. And we are going to get through this. And really, I think our society will be judged not just by how we got through it, but what we decided to do after we came out the other end, to hold accountable the people in authority who perhaps let this thing get away from themselves. I'll see you soon, folks.